Anxiety is always about the future.
That's what anxiety always is and will be.
While anxiety has many lessons, anxiety really has one lesson.
Anger is living in the past. Fear is living in the future.
The amount of times that stuff were thrown at us.
Like your anxiety was kind of rooted in this perpetual fear that the other shoe was going to fall. Look how much you care. It's an opportunity here. They're so afraid of something happening.
For whatever reason, England is like anti-Semitism on steroids. I want to give a shout out to one of my best friends, one of my best teachers. Anxiety.
Big word.
Big word.
Big word.
Big word. We're like, I've had a long, difficult relationship with anxiety, and in some ways, it's a never-ending, onion that's being peeled. There are layers of it, and oftentimes we don't even quite realize the extent that we have it until we get small glimpses where it's removed, and then we say, "Oh, that's possible to live that way." For so many years, all I knew was a state of perpetual fear, and about so many things, it didn't matter what it was. There was the overarching theme was the other shoe is going to drop at any moment, and when something slightly bad happened, or I thought would happen or could happen, it was like, okay, this is the beginning of the end. This is going to be the stone that starts an avalanche. Mm-hmm. That's it. And it was so much a part of my life that I didn't even know it was a part of my life. I think that I don't know that I would have responded or reacted to the word anxiety years ago when this was my state of being. And over the years, it's been, okay, how do I work through some of those things? And one of the most powerful lessons, and I say this almost as a reminder to myself because it never feels real when you're talking about the present anxiety that you have. It can feel very real about it's been worked through, but the anxiety that we're in the middle of, oh yeah, it's an angel delivering you a message that's for you. And it's like, oh, come on. Like this thing is robbing me of all my peace. And, there are so many different, angels have many jobs. They say each angel has one job. I don't know who they is, but whoever they are, they say that. I heard that. But there are many angels with many jobs. So to pretend that anxiety only has one lesson, come on.
Right.
There are big books that have many more than one lesson, and anxiety is bigger than big books.
Right.
Right.
Huge.
Huge. And so many of us in the world is medicating this thing. And the relationship that I've been forced to cultivate with anxiety has taught me so much that eventually appreciate this as one of the greatest teachers, one of the greatest guides, and literally an angel in our life that's dropping blessings. Mm-hmm. And as it's doing it, we're running to doctors and saying, medicate it away. I'm getting too many blessings here.
You said that, it's a question here, but you said that like your anxiety was kind of rooted in this perpetual fear that the other shoe was going to fall at any time.
Yeah, one of the many anxieties. I have other anxieties, but yeah.
And that brings to mind, like, there's a saying that I heard that anger is living in the past and fear is living in the future. So my question is anxiety anything other than fear of the unknown of the future? Like, does it show up in any other way, or is it kind of, that's what anxiety always is and will be? Because I think of like people that are close to me that struggle with anxiety, and it's the same thing. Like they're so afraid of something happening that hasn't happened yet, that it causes anxiety. And inside of that, it goes 1,000 different ways, like these things that haven't happened yet. Even myself, right? Like, but does anxiety show up any other way, or is that the corridor always like through fear of a possible future? Maybe.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think anxiety is always about the future, because even if we're really worried about something happening, in the moment it happens, there's never anxiety about it.
Yeah,
That's
speak
not
on that. Speak on
that's
that.
not the feeling. For example, you know, I spent a year in school in England, and for whatever reason, England is like anti-Semitism on steroids. It's like such comfort going after Jews. I've never experienced this anywhere in my life. Anywhere. There was the amount of times that stuff were thrown at us. I was I think 17 or 18 in school at the time. The amount of times we were yelled at, things were thrown at us, physically attacked. I mean, everything under the sun. So much so that I spent a Sabbath one time in London. We were about 20 or 30 friends from school, and each of us stayed in different homes that were within, let's say, 15 or 20 minutes from the synagogue we were all praying in. And it became a game to, like after the third or fourth time walking to and from the synagogue, to count how many times we were yelled at. It was so...
just for being Jewish.
Oh yeah, effing Jew, go back to Israel. What are they doing in Israel? They want us to go back somewhere else, right? But this was nonstop. Remind me of the question, because I got on a tangent.
Like, is anxiety always fear-based?
In the future. So
in the future, yeah.
So over here, it got me thinking about that a lot, right? It got me to this place of, okay, this can happen again. And I started walking on a swivel. Right? There were times where, you know, in a mall, someone bumped me from the back, and my hat, you know, I wore much more obvious Jewish attire there. Now it's fairly obvious, but you know, I was in a Hasidic school, and ironically today I'm wearing black pants and white shirt. It was a jacket, the hat, and everything. And someone bumps me from the back and knocks my hat on the floor. And then you start walking in circles. What was ironic is that not once when one of these things happened was fear running through my body. Not once. That was never
But before
it
happened, you were terrified.
Yeah, or when it never happened, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
So, yes, anxiety is always, right? In the future, when this happens, what? You're going to have adrenaline running through your system. You're going to have something else other than that. But yes, I agree with that. I do want to segue into something, because for someone who has a real, like, their anxiety is really present, they hear me say anxiety is an angel. Like, oh, wow, it's an angel warning me about this terrible thing that's going to happen, and now I got to do something about it. No, anxiety is smarter than that. Anxiety is a teacher that teaches in so many different ways, communicating something to us. Hey, this is important to you, right? This is important to you. This is one of your values. Okay. This is an identity that you're holding on to that you got to let go of. Shed that and you'll feel better. There are so many different lessons being taught to us by anxiety, but the overarching lesson of anxiety, you know what it is?
What's that?
So I'll answer instead of, they say show, don't tell, right? The overarching lesson of anxiety. So where does anxiety start? As a fear. But at the level of fear, we're usually able to subdue it. We don't quite feel it. And then it escalates to what we'll call anxiety. It, kind of builds on that. And then if we don't address it on the level of fear, and then we don't address it on the level of anxiety, then it keeps going above that. Now we're at the level of panic. When someone's at the level of panic, what are they forced to do? Well, one thing to do, breathe. Right?
Breathe.
It's the only thing to do is breathe. So while anxiety has many lessons, anxiety really has one lesson.
That's to breathe.
Breathe. So we do it in small ways, and we spoke about it in the Breathwork podcast. It could be anything. It could be you imagining yourself on stage, right? I'm going to do something. I'm going to stand up there and deliver this speech that I always wanted to give. And that image scares you a little bit. So,
right.
See, that's not a panic attack. That's a fear. But that fear is kind of like, you held it. It's there somewhere.
Right.
And it's stored quite physically, It's not only the big, massive things that get stored. Everything gets stored forever and ever. Like, not forever and ever, but everything gets stored forever until we... Right? Every piece of food, it's not just the massive meals that get stored inside us. A great example for this when I say stored, because food sounds, I can store this inside you. Right? It goes in, and unless you emit it as waste, it's still inside you. However, let's take images, for example. And as someone who's watched a lot of, not recently, but over the years, as someone who's watched a lot of porn, and that's actually the point, as someone who's watched a lot of porn over the years, many years ago, pictures that I've seen I will remember. They've done a study where they'll flash 1,000, let's say 1,000 images in 30 seconds in front of someone's eyes. I don't remember the exact number, but I was at a business conference and there was a speaker there who showed this to us, told us about the study and did it to us. I forget the exact number, but let's say it was 1,000 images in 30 seconds. And they asked, how many of them do you remember? And people were, I saw a boat, I saw a clown, I saw a mountain, I saw a red car, a blue car. Right? People are saying different things. Okay, great. Now I'm going to put a picture up. Right? Let's say there was 1,000 images showed, and maybe collectively in the room we get 50. Now I'm going to put a picture up, and I'm going to ask you, did you see it in the bundle of 1,000, yes or no? The next one, did you see it in the bundle of 1,000, yes or no? And 100% of the time, people knew. So where's it stored? It's not stored in conscious memory. Right? I couldn't access it. 30 people in the room couldn't access more than 50. All 30 people in the room can access 1,000, just getting into it in a different way. Saying, did you see this picture? It's like, yeah, it's stored somewhere. So where is it? It's inside our body. I mean, where could it be? It's somewhere. It came in, we've consumed it. It's in that fear. We've swallowed it. We've consumed it. It's somewhere inside us. We can release it. We can admit it, but we probably didn't because what's the big deal? It's the image of me standing on stage. It freaks me out. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to do anything with it. But then it builds on it. It wants your attention. So anxiety is kind of that fear that you didn't pay attention to. Now it's reached a level of anxiety. You still don't want to pay attention to it at a level of anxiety? You still want to listen to the angel? Let's turn it into panic. Panic, shortness of breath. What do we must do during a panic attack? Breathe. What that would mean practically is that if that was your fear, right? If you're imagining yourself getting on stage, brings up a little bit of fear. If you can imagine yourself up on stage and breathe deeply through that, that fear can totally release. You can totally sometimes you need more, right? Sometimes we can clean ourselves and sometimes we need someone to do the cleaning for us.
Right.
But that could be released, and it's released through breath. Sometimes our breathing isn't enough. So we go to a breathwork session and they take us through something a little more that will help release it. And there are levels to the teachings of anxiety, but this idea, this concept that anxiety is a teacher that has tremendous amount of lessons, when harnessed, will bring revealed blessings into our life, is something that I think we're misunderstanding. We're medicating. We're shutting up our best teachers and putting these idiots in front of the room and saying, teach us. What am I supposed to teach you? You got the best teacher in the world. You just shut him up and you replaced him with a kindergarten kid and said, talk. He's got nothing to say other than numb it all away. Distract. It's like, no, I got my purpose. I got my vision for the future. I got everything. My values, my identity, my lack of identity. So much of that was taught to me by anxiety.
Yeah, that one definitely lands. I think of a friend of mine who's going through like a rough patch right now in a relationship, and he's like really torn up about it. And I recognize just from knowing him for a long time that probably the first time I've known him that he's cared so much about someone else other than himself. And that's the reason why it's so important, right? And he has I see him living in all these different scenarios of this is about to happen, that's about to happen, what if? And, it just makes me think that the angel is trying to give him a message. It's like,
what do you think the message is?
That look how much you care. It's an opportunity here, right?
Look how much you care about relationships,
about this person, right? Which is in its best form is a great, healthy, and that you should pay attention. And it's an opportunity for you to look at whatever the challenge is in that relationship and like really address it, because up until now it's been you by yourself. Now someone else, the fear of losing them is what it really is with him. The fear of losing this person is like driving him crazy. So, you know, the ball got to hit the ground before it bounces. Like, it's a massive opportunity to shift everything about you, you know? And yeah, I feel that about.
That's what I meant in terms of that. Like, the anxiety is teaching something that's a value that maybe the person, what's that song? We don't know what we have till it's gone.
Right.
This person may not have known this was important. They start losing it. This was that important to them. This was a value. This was a priority because they had it. It was there. And all of a sudden they start to lose it. There's anxiety about losing it. They get caught up in that and they say, no, let's say you just learned something so powerful from this. And going back to the idea that angels only have one purpose. What would happen if the person learned the lesson from this anxiety? The feeling that we can't stand will just turn into peace because angels only have one purpose.